to call the Village of Midlothian board meeting for March 25th, 2015 to order. I'm doing my job tonight because he's ill. Roll call. Trustee Gillis, Trustee Killeby, Trustee Price, here. Trustee LaRue,
here. Trustee
Moskal,
Here.
Trustee Chabon,
Here.
Mayor Ryback, here. We have a quorum. Please stand for the pledge. And after the pledge, please remain standing for a moment of silence for our pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, if there's anyone from any of the municipal commissions or local organizations in attendance, if you'd like to stand and state your name, we'd like to welcome you to the meeting.
Jim Powers, Commissioner of Park District.
Good evening.
I'd like to address this, if I may.
Okay, we're not to the public portion yet, so if you could wait just a few minutes, okay?
Dean Becky, Community Policing.
Good evening.
George Jones, Veterans Committee, Midlothian VFW, American Legion.
Welcome to everybody this evening. At this time, I would like to open the floor to public comment. Now, sir, that would be your time.
My time? Thank you. I'd rather have you say it than the judge, but I want to first of all give a compliment to the individual who made sure that you got in office. That was a brilliant setup. I like that. Now, the only thing I want to put on the table is, of course, I pay $600 a month each year to pay the public servants in this village. So I find that I have something to say that makes sense. And I saw something in the paper in a neighboring village or city. There was a thing going on of getting rid of the fire department, the police department, but they ran over the budget. And a miracle happened. One guy stood up and he says, I have bosses, you know. And what he meant by this is that are we the people. That's simple, you know. So, when I go into that, I don't want to go too long in that. I came to the States in 65 years ago, 1949. I had to wait 3.5 years to get in. I had to go to Brazil, have a sponsor. He guaranteed the United States government that he will pick up the tab for us for 5 years. So here we are, and I'm a very lucky man. I had a guardian angel during World War II because the Germans put me on an airfield, and of course we know the Americans were determined to get rid of the Germans. I could not move anywhere because the guy behind me was a German stood with a gun out, so I didn't have much choice. But like I said, I survived that. I'm 90 years old now. Never thought I would get that old. But the thing I want to bring across is, when I went for a breakfast, and I looked at that sign of a disabled member, so when I looked at the sign, I saw a $350 fine if you parked. That's the first time in my life I looked at a $350 fine. Well, anyhow, then the other thing is that I want to say is about that thing that's coming up at the vote about when you sell your home, you know, so. Now, I want to sell my home in 2003 for very simple reasons. What we have now, I saw coming. I had a guardian angel, and that was Milton Friedman. And I talked to that man every day for 2 hours. I got his job. So I was very blessed to know that man instead of a politician. I don't want to go too much about politicians because the story tells it always. Like you for instance as mayor, you inherit a thing from a mayor. He was absolutely impossible. I've been here many times. So you inherited about 3 generations debt. That's what you inherited. You're like the same kind of person like Mr. The new governor is. He gets nowhere either, you know, because they went in here. But the main point is here that what I mostly don't like, that what makes people do like unions. I'm a union man. But when I see the fire department and the police union, they know that they cannot afford to pay, but they insist. So that man had to go enlist in case of the policeman and so on. That's one thing. The other thing is, if I was 70 years old, and I mean it sincerely, I would start a thing that is called We the People. And I have finances enough to send everybody in this village a letter. And I just ask for a response, because we the people are in charge. We gave you the opportunity to follow up. That's a trust you got. If you break that trust, you trust more than, you do more than that. Now, that mayor we had, he was a disgrace. I've been here many times when 2 of the trustees voted against something because my wife says, you go there, but I never read anything about you in the paper. He said, you want me in the paper? Yeah, he said, I get in the paper. So there were 3 police cars were purchased by they planned to purchase them. So I went there and I voted against it. And of course, exactly what I figured, most guys like that have no brains. So he put in big letters, John Dickeboom, 14530 Le Mans. He voted against it. And I was not the only one. Christ voted against it, and the jeweler voted against it. I don't see him today. But all in all, I'm 90 years old, you know, and there are people complaining about Social Security. There's criminals that complain about that because I've been collecting it for years. And it is paid by people who don't know if they ever gonna get Social Security. You know, you can be an old ditty, but you got to think about the younger ones too, who grow up. And that is about the end of my spiel, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this evening. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi. Regina Zeman, and I'm on Linder. And I'm retired, I'm on a fixed income, and I'm going over my telephone bill. We have a landline. Midlothian charges us, the municipal tax charges us, the telecommunications state tax charges us, and it adds up to about $68 a year. If this new request from you comes through, our bill would increase to $102 a year, a 65% increase. It seems that Midlothian plans to discriminate against the retired, against landline users, and against the elderly, and even local businesses. And your effort to carve out special groups for discrimination is short-sighted and it's punitive. I would like you to show me how you are acting fairly and legally. And if you cannot, I plan to vote no. I hope somebody else does too. We don't need a landline tax.
Thank you.
Are you talking about the 911
Yeah.
referendum?
No, if I could just jump in and explain, that was, the Finance Committee has worked, we put in hours and hours and hours. Trustee Killelea and Trustee Moskowitz and myself sit on the Finance Committee, and we've had other trustees. I think Trustee LaRue has been at every Finance Committee meeting. And we're dealing with what we think is still a perceived deficit. And if I could just give you a little history, the Finance Committee was charged with decreasing expenses and looking for additional revenue sources. The mayor wanted a 33%, she had requested a 33% property tax increase, and the board was opposed to that. So one of the options we came up with was a $3 surcharge, monthly surcharge on the telephone bills. And if I could just give you a little bit of history, in 1990, the residents voted via referendum for a 911 fund, and the rate was set at $1.25 a month. That was 25 years ago. That rate has not increased. Landline uses have decreased. So what's happened is we have a deficit every month in our 911 fund. We take in approximately $9,000, but we pay approximately $20,000 a month to Blue Island for our dispatch services. So we have to make up that difference from our general fund. So one of the options that the Finance Committee looked at was a $3 a month increase. So that's $3 a month times 12 months a year, that's $36 a year to fund the shortfall in the 911 fund. And we just felt that that was just a small piece to pay versus a 33% property tax increase, which I can tell you where I live would have amounted to about $350 a year every year. So we really tried to analyze and be logical in our thinking to continue to provide the services that the residents want. When you pick up the phone and call 911, you certainly want a response. You want somebody to answer that call, and you want the emergency services there for you. So that was one of the options that we came up with. But we also felt we had to take it to the voters. And I don't know, Don, Alan, Gary, if any of you would want to jump in, because you've been at all. Pardon me?
Sounding very proponent. Go.
Me?
Be careful.
Well, okay, I'm just trying to give the facts. I'm trying to give the facts as to why this was one of the options that we came up with. But again, it's up to the voters. And if it doesn't pass, then we'll have to go back and look at something else. And I think what we've done is really try to look at everything other than a property tax increase.
So I guess if we just drop our landline, then we don't have to pay it.
Well, you know, this problem, and you're absolutely right, but this problem is statewide, and there is going to be, there's been, over the past couple of years, bills proposed to make the 911 charge apply to anybody who's got landlines or cell phones. And so to make up this deficit, because every town in the state is having the exact same problem we are, less landlines, less revenue. So, you know, I think the expectation is, because there's such a large decrease of landlines, that this will be applied to any type of phone. You know, whoever has any type of phone, the 911 charge will be applied. But you were right. Right now, unfortunately, there's a small percentage.
Well, that's the difference.
And you're carving out a special,
That's right.
can you do that legally, carve out a special group to tax? I thought that was illegal.
The village is only allowed to tax the landlines that are in the village. The 911 phone charges that get paid on your cell phone, that is dispersed by the Illinois Commerce Commission, and we have no control over that. And from what I've learned about 911, which is more than I ever thought I'd know. It is actually distributed on where you use your cell phone, not where it's registered. So if they could equally distribute the 911 fund from cell phones as well as landlines, then it would be across the board. The problem is the way it's set up right now, we have no control over that as a board here in the village. The only things we do have control over are the landlines.
Well, I understand, but I still think that you're targeting the wrong group. You're mostly targeting the retiree and the retired person, and the person who could least afford a 65% increase. Twice as much as a property tax.
We appreciate your comment.
I actually have a comment, a question actually. All right, what if you have like Magic Jack for your phone thing? How does the 911 apply to the Magic Jack phone systems? And what are some of the other ones that are out there?
Only the landline.
It does not.
Only the landline.
Only copper-based landlines that come from
Like
a landline phone.
or
Magic Jacks or
Comcast
Comcast
something?
Internet telephone.
So if you have like Magic Jack, you don't have to
You
worry.
do not pay that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy Caveney, Keeler Avenue. I was on the Cook County Land Bank website, just looking up information and, trying to get some information on it. And I found a very interesting link. And it's for anybody's use. Anybody can go on it and look. There is a link on the Cook County Land Bank website where you could type in your zip code and it will, or your town, and it'll give you a list of properties that have delinquent taxes. So, of course, I looked up Midlothian and printed off this sheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet, anybody can get one. And I sorted it based on class, meaning if it's a vacant lot or a residence or business or what have you. And was surprised to see how many vacant lots there are in Midlothian. Was really, really surprised. But very interestingly, there are a slew of vacant lots that run along Midlothian Creek, over near, around the corner of 153rd and Kilbourne and Waverly. And that happens to be one of the corners where one of the USG flow rate measurement gauge things is included. So I've got this list. I'll give you guys a copy because I've got it at home. You can take a look at it. But, huh? Well, it's got, I'm sorry. All these lots have Midlothian addresses. Yeah, they do. I can email you the list tomorrow because I only brought 3 copies. But anyways, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, we had that flood meeting a couple weeks ago, and Army Corps was here, Water Reclamation was here, and the thought behind bringing this list to everyone's attention is that as the Army Corps and Water Reclamation are trying to come up with a plan for flood control in Midlothian, I know that during the meeting, one of the comments that was made was that, long-term planning was that if acquisition could be made of land that's along the creek, they could build out the banks of the creek with walking paths or bike paths, permeable pavement, and that type of thing. All of these lots are abandoned. Whoever owns them isn't paying taxes on them. They're not cleaning them up. They're not taking care of them. They're a holy hell of a mess. Trees are falling into the creek. The banks of the creek are totally eroded. There are some sections of that creek that are like 20 feet wide. So my thought was, if we could work with Army Corps and Water Reclamation and try to take possession of some of this property, maybe it could be used towards some of the flood planning projects that they've gotten.
But that's along the Midlothian Creek, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, unfortunately, it's, I guess I would still have to dig a little deeper to see if we had any situations like that along Natalie Creek,
I was going
but
to say, could you look for Natalie? That would be great.
Yes,
Well,
I'll
I think they have,
So-
and that's what they were pointing out, the places.
that's why they're highlighted in color.
Okay, got it.
If you look at, like, in the green, those are on Kenneth. Kenneth doesn't go through, but if Kenneth did come through, it would dead end right at Waverly. And that's a whole section of lots, so it's kind of hard to tell because it's all wooded. 153rd, this is like right near the corner of 153rd and Kilbourne. same with this, 153rd and Kilbourne, then there's
That would be Oak
153rd
Forest,
and
or that would
Colmar.
be Oak Forest, Kathy.
But it says Midlothian.
And it says Midlothian, Kathy, but it's unincorporated anybody.
Yeah.
It's not, doesn't
But it's
belong
not
to
our
us.
zip code, so.
Some of them have that, there are homes
And then there's
homes in Oak Forest
Mhm.
that have Midlothian addresses, they don't buy village stickers. It's a real gray area over there, and they are not, even though it says Midlothian or whatever, they are not in Midlothian. And I know
Even though they have
several.
Midlothian zip codes?
But
Pardon me?
could we annex them? I mean, theoretically, you know, if they were having some value as far as flood control, which I don't even know if they do.
Because these lots are not on the south side, on the west side of the street, they're on the east side of the street. They're on the east side of Kilbourne. So that's why I thought that
I
they were
know several of these
Midlothian.
residents, and I know for a fact
We stop at cost.
they're not incorporated areas.
It's weird, some of the addresses that are 153, like 01 and 03, they're actually on what we would consider Waverly, but it's a 5-digit address from Kilbourne that actually goes on Waverly. It doesn't make any sense, the numbering system
We have a
there.
similar situation, I believe it's Linder, where the first three houses are Midlothian, it jumps a lot, and it's unincorporated, and then it comes up, it's Midlothian again for another lot, and so it's similar to that situation.
In Midlothian, actually, on Kilbourne, going south, 152nd, that's where Midlothian ends. From 152nd to Waverly, that's all Oak Forest.
On both sides of the street?
Yeah. The house that's on the southeast corner facing 152nd, that would be Midlothian. But then if you go past that, just south of that, that's all Oak Forest, both sides, all the way to Waverly. Coming up Waverly, at Costner, I believe that big white house to the left, you know, the real big mansion,
Yeah.
that's Midlothian, I believe. Anything going towards Oak Forest is unincorporated. 'Cause we stop plowing everything, and we don't maintain anything.
Well, I guess regardless if it's Midlothian or Oak Forest, the plan that they're working on is going to include part of Natalie Creek and Midlothian Creek going into Oak Forest, so.
Well, and they are looking at some of the overbanking net results in Oak Forest, in that area. They've been out there to pull trees out of there within the last 12 months because one block west of these this exact intersection we are talking about, the erosion has actually widened that creek bed 40 feet in the last 5 years. And those trees are falling over. So I know they've been looking, so I guess like Kathy's saying, maybe it just wouldn't hurt to throw that information out there and let it just, you know, see if it can help in any way.
Good idea. Thank you. Thank you for the research.
Yes, it's me. I'm going with good news first. So, IDNR, Illinois Department of Natural Resources, Lisa Kottner requested flood photos for a presentation she's working on for a National Environmental Justice Conference. Her presentation is going to include stormwater projects that Illinois Department of Natural Resources has funded in the south suburbs. She's also going to be documenting and illustrating the point that lower income populations are often disproportionately impacted by stormwater in our region. So I did send her several photo files that she's going to be using. And as a result of that, a new not-for-profit organization called Highbridge contacted me, Julia Plum. They've just launched their organization in 2015, which is their pilot year. They're going to be installing, I don't know if any of you have heard of this, Joe. They're going to be installing rain gardens in the south suburbs, and we're one of those. So she requested a series of our flood photos as well. Had you heard anything about that? So yeah, they're a new not-for-profit, but it's Highbridge, and I imagine we'll
What's the name of the group?
Highbridge.
HI or A?
H-I-G-H.
You said
So-
rain gardens?
Yep. Midlothian is they're receiving one of those. So I'm also curious, Joe, what we would know about the MWRC study. We talked about that. I see Jerry's not here tonight. We brought that up at the meeting a couple weeks ago. We thought that hydraulic and hydrologic study was going to happen in Jolly Homes in the last couple months. We got the letter on the MWRC letterhead, and we still, like, they all looked like they were deers in headlights.
Well, that was a mistake. Jerry brought the letter out here. That was a letter from Jeff from Robinson. Him and I talked about this, and we had talked with MWRD about trying to obtain some kind of funding or financing to look into a study over at the Jolly Homes area, separate from your guys
Right.
over here at Natalie Creek. And they said, you know, if we did some preliminary engineering and looked at it, they would maybe look into it further, and then they would maybe, there's some types of funding out there. So that was just a proposal from Jeff for Robinson to do some initial engineering
But
to the village.
There's the one on the MWRD letterhead that told us when they would be here. So,
That I don't know.
okay, I'm gonna
anything
get you, I'm
about.
gonna bring
Jerry
in-
brought the letter out to me, and that was a letter actually from Robinson to the village board.
Okay, ours was from MWRD saying that they were gonna be out there doing those hydrologic and hydraulic, right? That's what it said.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about it. They, like you said, they look like deer in the headlights, so I don't know anything about it.
Okay, all right, because, you know, the people who live over there were so hopeful, and I think their hearts about fell through the concrete that night.
Yeah.
You know, because that was their step one. They thought, you know, hey, good, somebody's finally looking over here, and then does, like, yeah, the deer.
Well, I didn't want to bring up anything until we got something legit to bring up, so I don't know how that got out there, or.
The letter came to me in an email, and Jerry got one too. He did get the
It
same
came
exact
from
one.
MWRD, you're saying?
Yep, it's at the blue letterhead with the Chicago
Can
shoreline.
you scan that and send it to me, and
I
I'll.
can't scan it, but I'll get you one.
I'll follow up with them and see what they know about it.
Okay.
I know nothing about it.
Yeah, well, they were all here and they didn't know. So, I'm actually still working on a letter. I've had a lot going on in the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to work on a follow-up letter because they asked us for feedback, so I was going to include that in there as well. I just wondered if you'd heard something. Okay. Then we saw the Burns and McDonald out there the last couple days on 149th, so we were wondering if you could tell us anything more specific other than what they said, which was they were taking measurements, checking the sewer conditions, and observing the flow.
One thing I know is today I saw them over there doing a soil boring on 149.
Oh, they had like their heads in the sewer caps yesterday.
Why?
They kept
I didn't
pulling
see any of
the
that.
covers off and
They're looking for the depth.
just
What
depth.
I gathered, this is what happened today. I saw them out there. I asked these guys, I had a little crotchety old man in the back of his truck, and I said, what are you guys doing? And I don't know if he didn't know who I was, and he says, oh, we're doing a study for the state for a road program. And we have a grant coming next year to redo
street.
149th Street. So that's what I assumed. I drove away, and
But why would it be Burns and McDonald?
well, this time I didn't know that was them.
Okay.
So then I went back and they were on 148. That street's not one of them. So then I got out and I looked into it a little more and I talked to the younger guy and I said, who are you working for? He said, Burns and McDonald. They're doing soil borings. And then I got a call from one of their engineers today and he was asking me stuff about their sanitary sewers. They're investigating the depths of the sewer system. So if they do that bypass pipe, they want to know if they have room underground to do that without interfering with everybody's sanitary sewers and all that. So this is just all this preliminary.
The 62 million pipe?
No, it's a diversion.
There's a
That
new
whole thing,
pipe.
that whole pipe was not 62, I found all this out. All the rumors, I always heard that it was a $62 million diversion pipe. That was the whole project. That was if they did the pipe from Kilpatrick to Keystone to the creek.
Right.
And they did all this other work that they're trying to do now, that would all come to 62 million.
Okay.
So as you saw when they were here last time, that diversion pipe is that's one of the
They
alternatives.
keep bringing up the pipe.
It's
Okay.
just running it from Canton corner, like they're talking about, you saw this, I don't want to go over all that, but from Canton down to Kilbourne, I believe, or Costner, then over to 148, then to Kildare, and then back into the creek or something. I can't remember exactly the route, but
Okay.
it's gonna be a lot shorter than what but these are all preliminary studies.
Okay.
That's what they're doing.
All right. Thanks. Last summer, we participated in filming a special on climate change, actually. They were with us for about 6 hours, and it's going to air on PBS Friday the 3rd of March.
April.
Oh, April. We missed it. I missed it. Okay. Okay, now here's the bad subjects. Fasten your seatbelts. Okay, I want to thank Mr. Kelly again for beginning the work on the community rating system. We began asking Mayor and the board to look into this in June of 2013. So while we've waited this long without a highly qualified village employee appointed to accomplishing this extremely important task, which is going to provide uncancelable, affordable insurance opportunities for hundreds of long-suffering flood victims here in Midlothian, we're asking the board to consider the funds needed to pay the engineer to get the next step moving. It's as an extreme priority since it's been neglected for almost 2 years. So realizing that it could take a year for anything to even come to fruition of that. I know we heard about a possible grant to help fund that, but it really does need to be bumped to the top of the list because, you know, we sit here quite often listening to where the money is allocated, and it just never seems to come this way. So while it hasn't made the priority list, we're asking you all to really consider how long we've waited for this beginning step. My last concern was something we also heard at the last meeting when the mayor mentioned that the code enforcer was going to be, I would call it promoted, possibly to the superintendent of building or the building inspector. And we wondered to know if this was a full-time position. We're wondering what his qualifications are specifically and what exactly he is qualified to do above and beyond being a code enforcer. Why do we need a building superintendent at this time when the last building superintendent's hours were cut to part-time? The residents are being asked to pay more and more money to solve the village financial crisis, and we're just trying to understand why there's a lot of select people getting raises and promotions. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Dave.
My name's Dave Twombly. I know you have a lot bigger fish to fry than what I'm about to ask you about, but am I the only one in this town that wants to grab one of those Metro engineers and drag them out of that train and give them a smack every time they drive past there, and they lay on those horns incessantly? It wakes people. I'm sure I'm not the only one that it wakes up. I'm sure I'm not the only one that it pisses off. But I just want to know, has anybody ever come forward here and complained about these train horns? Because I've driven through other suburbs and they have no train horn signs. And there's no houses around, so they don't blow the horns. And I've gone through Homer Glen, that goes through the neighborhoods there. No train horns. Come through Midlothian, you got the Riverview rides over there going across the tracks, which is another issue. And you got these engineers that are blowing the horns. It's unbelievable. I'm sure you know, and everybody in this room probably knows. But can something be done about that?
Actually, Dave, you are not the first one to approach the board on this issue, and we did go to Metra and try to find a solution to the train blowing. I think the reason they lay on the horn so much is because they can't do it in Oak Forest and Tinley. So they take it all up and bring it here to us. It does seem at times that they are excessive when they get into the village. There is a law on how long they can do it. It's supposed to be 2 shorts, 1 long.
2 longs, a short and a long.
There you go. I figured he'd know. And so if that was the complaint, I can complain about it. We were told by Metro it would be about a $500,000 fix for us to be a no-blow zone.
How do the other towns get them not to do it?
They must have.
They gotta pay for that?
Yes. Yes.
That's ludicrous.
We were given the proposal of $500,000.
Well, we do a sound decibel thing at 3 o'clock in the morning when most people are sleeping or babies are napping and stuff like that. Do a sound decibel test out there, because I'll tell you what, when you're over there by the post over there, you can't hear nothing. Everybody's got to stop. I know it's like O'Hare Airport when why'd you move over there if you're going to complain about the plane noise? I understand that,
right. But
it just seems like he could give a couple toots or something instead of you could hear him in Blue Island from my house.
Their proposal included cul-de-sac in Hamlin, taking all this median out here because it's not high enough, raising it.
just have all the precautions we have to go through to be a no-blow zone.
Timers on the gates or something. It was.
Yeah.
I agree with you. 500,000 seems ridiculous when you go to other towns and all you see is little stanchions in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be cheaper just to just put stanchions down the median instead of tearing it out.
Well, I'll continue to look into it though, Dave. Thank you.
Now, before you close, I have one item, if I may.
Okay.
I want you to see people smiling. I was smiling for 2 days. You get those shysters call, or what I call shyster, because I got an answering machine and I don't even get a chance to answer because they hang up. So, but I got a call. Now, I'm a disabled man, I got all the stuff you can get when you're 90. So anyhow, I get a call, and if you don't smile about this, then I don't know what. But I got a call, and he said, "Sir, are you John Dickebone?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "We are an organization, sir, who take care of disabled and elderly people." So she said, sir, you're God sent. Guess what he did? He hung up the hook. I was laughing for 2 days. I couldn't help it.
Thank you.
Well, at least we left. Because
There you
once in a
go.
while, if you lose your sense of humor, you better go and forget about it. Yeah.
Nobody do that. We appreciate that. And
Thank
with that, I
you.
will close the floor to public comment. At this time, trustees, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. This evening's consent agenda, thank you trustee Price for pointing out. We did adjust the February 11th, 2015 minutes. You were correct. We did have an interruption, but they've now been corrected, and I gave each of you a copy. The list of bills, and then the department reports for February from the building department, fire department, police department, and public works.
Does that correction include the board meetings? There was a correction?
No, when we went to closed session.
On the fifth one down, it was suggested that we go back to having 2 board meetings a month, but shouldn't it be 4?
We have 2 board and 2 committee.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Trustee LaRue?
Aye.
Trustee Schiavone? Trustee Killian?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis?
Aye.
Trustee Manisco?
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, we'll move on to trustee business. Trustee Kreis.
Grant updates. I'm happy that our EPA grant continues to move along, and we've had so many things happening on that the last couple weeks. Last week, the phase 2 drillings were done on both the Chevy and all of the village-owned Chrysler and Dodge properties. Yesterday, it was all done on the Grills property, and the Grills property will be transferred, and actually, we're gonna have our first success story with our EPA grant. And that's what they look for. We have to do quarterly reports, so I'm really happy that we're gonna have that success story. And we also submitted property eligibility determinations for 2 additional phase 1s. So the grant continues to be a lot of work, but we're having success, so I'm happy to report on that. Next item that I have on the agenda is right-way. And we discussed this at committee last week. I need to get back to them. Look through our ordinances, and we do not prohibit a prefabricated building. So I'm just trying to get the consensus from the board. What do I tell the developer? We had some discussion, but I need to respond to them. What do I tell the developer?
He's asking just for Class 8.
Well, they wanted sales, they were talking about sales tax sharing and Class 8, and I believe trustee Moskal, my notes reflect that you would only consider either one of those if they put up a permanent structure. So I need to know how to respond. I need to get consensus of the board.
They're moving a building we already have.
That's what I
They want us to give them
think.
2 types of tax breaks.
And they're just pushing them from, you said like a front section.
It's a double trailer,
With a front porch.
front porch.
Yeah. I think, should that be part of the RDA? I mean,
Well, I could tell them that we would have to have an RDA with them.
and part of the RDA is gonna be, okay, here's what you're asking for, here's
Okay.
what we're asking for.
Okay, I will send an email.
Seems premature to be
Okay,
making a head vote here.
okay, I will send an email again.
It's
Just kind of consensus, but I can tell them if they are considering any type of improvement to the property, it would have to be part of the RDA. And that's a good suggestion, because that kind of leads me into my next item of business with the same developer. And as you know, I had taken a potential end user, used car dealer with this developer, Mr. Dugan, into the old Dodge building And he was interested at that time in the Dodge building and in the property to the north, the old used car lot. I received an email from him yesterday, and they're still very interested. They're going to be moving quickly on developing a proposal and related documentation. They're looking at different scenarios. One was the original, the Dodge and the used car lot. Another one would be the Dodge and the Chrysler. He's got a number of scenarios here. I emailed him back, told him I could talk to the board generally about it. But I said, as I stated to you in a previous email, a potential purchase would need to be tied to a redevelopment agreement. Because he keeps asking me, what can you give us in the TIF? And I keep saying, it needs to be negotiated, we're going to need a redevelopment agreement. So another email today. Hi Karen, thanks for the info, and we are moving forward. We're putting together our proposal. I've advised S&M that all proposals and negotiations will culminate in a redevelopment agreement, and they fully understand. I will be meeting with S&M, and we are going to put together our proposal. So stay tuned, okay? We continue to have interest, and you may be putting together another redevelopment or two, okay? I will let you know as soon as I get, and again, it's the same developer, so he knows the expectations that if we're going to redevelop property, we're going to require a redevelopment agreement. And the other update, oh, I'm excited, we scheduled our first Rain Ready meeting, and that will be here in Village Hall on Thursday, April 16th at 9:30 a.m. So,
Can I ask one question on that?
Sure.
Now, when Jeff asked if he could participate, does that mean we have to pay him?
I will ask him.
We didn't think about that.
I will ask him.
And I noticed that he's already had a lot to lend, you know, in the email exchange when we're discussing it, but I thought we'd better think about that before we get moving, huh?
It's a very good question, Howard. Did
What time did you say?
9:30 a.m.
That's it.
We're trying to accommodate everybody's schedules, and we have kids' school schedules, and I'm trying to not have Joe here at night again. So we're going to do it at 9:30 on the third Thursday, and I'm excited, and hopefully Harriet can kind of maybe help us with our first agenda, because I think she needs to hold her, Harriet or Burrell, hold our hand until we kind of get our feet wet, no pun intended.
Maybe we could further that map before we send it back, because that's why they left it, was so we could give residents a little additional time.
Okay.
So we could probably just hand it, you know, back into the mail to them once we finish our details at our first meeting.
Okay. And the other thing I just want to keep on everybody's radar is the Veterans Committee's 5th Annual Independence Day Parade, Saturday, June 27. The participation form's on the website, and we have 2 members here tonight, Dave Twombly and George Dothan. So if anybody needs information, wants to participate, you can see any of us. And that thing is all I have this evening. Thank you. Trustee Chevron.
Yes, 2 items. The project that's going on at 147th and Lawndale, the Design Building Storage LLC. Apparently, they've submitted their plans, and in those plans, they've asked to be allowed to do trench foundation. For those that don't know what trench foundation is, that's just where they scrape away or dig out the ground and pour the concrete right into the trench and the flooring of the building at the same time. Unfortunately, Jeff Koza is not here tonight, which he could explain is probably more technical terms, but Joe's here and he's got somewhat of a handle on it. But I did ask Mike Anypenny to contact Jeff and ask him how does the village look at it. And this is what Jeff said back to Mike. From what I can tell, looking at the code book for the village, it appears per section 4-10-5, parentheses D, forms are required for foundation walls. I believe that trench foundations are poured without forms, so per code it would appear that these are not allowed. The other issue with that is that a couple people I've talked to are in the industry said that they never heard of doing trench foundations when there's multiple stories involved. The weight of the building would overcome the foundation basis. So I don't know what they're going to do about this at this point. All they've done is asked for the building department to come up with an answer for that. And right now the answer is no, you can't. So I don't know if they've contacted your officers and they're not on this yet.
They have not, but I know they were gonna submit the plans, and obviously they've done that, but I haven't heard anything from them, so, you know, we have to go back and tell them they're gonna have to use the forms like our code requires, that's all we can do.
And the other, and I just came in today because the plan just came in, and I just briefly went through them because this was the first issue on the board, but they would be in accordance with fire, I believe, fire retard, they would have to have cement floors going up from the ground floor, which would overload with going up 4 stories high, which would overload that foundation.
Definitely.
So there's a lot of issues here, and I don't know where they're trying to go with it. Yes, go ahead.
Normally when they pour a footing, they pour the footing separate, and the footing is twice as wide as the foundation
Right.
wall. The foundation wall's in the center, and the reason that the engineer told me this was they're trying to go right on the property line, right up to the property line. So they're trying to dig it all one trench, like you were saying, and pour it also. This way their equipment, just maybe their tracks would be on there, but their forms would not be on there because you have to overdig for the forms. So my question to Jeff and or to Mike Bennington was, we have setbacks, and you can't be right on the property. You need 4 or 5 feet off the property.
Well, that brings up, and I'm glad you reminded me, we have long, this village has long been suffering with that issue. When people in the past were allowed to build on property lines, eventually it turned out that they wanted to do something to their fence, wall, whatever they had there, and then of course the neighbors couldn't get along, and they didn't want the other neighbor in their yard. And then the police got involved, which they shouldn't have to, and that would be the case here on the east wall. I mean, if the apartment buildings to the east of them decided they didn't want them on their property while they were constructing this, there would be a major confrontation.
Are we talking about the Bear building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, their thinking is if they do a trench foundation, they can get close to the
Right,
property wall.
yes.
Even the guy, as he was speaking, he said, well, I guess the machinery, you know, if they're gonna use a track hole, and half the track hole's gonna be on the property.
Property,
They
yeah.
can, you know,
So,
I don't see how they're.
anyhow, be prepared, I guess, but wait, yeah, what's up?
Dan?
Yeah, I don't think you can put a trench foundation in Cook County, not on a building like that. That's as far as I know. You gotta have the footing and the foundation walls.
Yeah, he brought up a few examples, but like you said, I don't think any of them were in Cook County. You know, they were further north and
Yeah.
west.
I don't think you can do it in Cook County. Cook
Well,
County-
apparently they're under the impression they can do it, or they want to do it anyhow, so.
Where are they from?
Where are they from, where they, I don't know where their origin is.
Northern suburbs.
Oh,
You know what, I guess we need to look at that redevelopment agreement, because I have a feeling that they're not,
It's required to be in compliance with all of
Right.
the codes, and we're required to sign off on all
He
this
asked, he asked that the variances that the board granted to the original developer there be adhered to. I'm looking for those variances, I don't know.
The only variance that was granted was to allow them to have a storage building there, because that's technically an industrial use under the code.
So that's the only variance.
Yeah, it's the only variance that I'm aware of.
we have to make sure he's adhering to his timelines
They were
too.
making a new foundation, they were gonna use the old building.
The original plan.
The original plan.
That was correct.
Same thing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys came in and bought up.
Yeah.
The new guy was always intended to demolish it.
Yeah, right, exactly. Do we, in cases like that, where it's sort of beyond the building department, we use an architect to do reviews like that or something?
Yes, yes.
It actually sounds like we might need a structural
I
engineer.
think we need.
Right.
Structural engineer.
We can ask an architectural agency to look at their plan and then charge them for that
Right.
cost.
Yeah, but it's not at our cost.
Not at our cost, no.
Well, is that something that we can charge them for the RDA? Or is that something that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I
Okay,
have to look
I mean,
at
if
it.
they want this to go forward, then we're gonna
I
have a
could say
structural
that if
engineer.
that's what's
look at it.
required for us to approve their plans, I think I could make a pretty straight-faced argument that they're required to pay for it.
So anyhow, that was an FYI, so be prepared to hear more on that.
Okay.
And the other thing I have, quite simply, is just the, on Monday the 30th, the zoning board will be hearing 2 issues Monday night at 6 o'clock in here. One is about rezoning, and the other one is about a building that's right next to, just to the east of Blackhawk Plaza, that they're looking to put a church in, I believe, or something to that effect. And there's just a, and I should, there's a host of issues there for them to look at. And that's all that I have.
Okay, we'll be looking forward to your report. Trustee Gillis could not make it this evening, and the only thing I had from him was he did get the quotes. Maybe one of those nights. The quote last week at committee, he brought up the repair of Deputy Chief Matter's buggy. They did take it to EDCA and to Custom 77. Custom 77 is $1678 and EDCA was $1730.87. The fire chief is recommending to go with Custom 77 at the lower price to get the car repaired, and I'll be looking for this to be approved probably next week at April 1st's meeting, because I'm going to have to actually make that a special meeting. So I just wanted to give you the prices on the repair of DC's car. And that's all I have for Jerry. Trustee LaRue.
Yes, ma'am. I want to thank everyone for their generous donations of Easter eggs and candy for our upcoming Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 4th. I believe we are up to 4,500 eggs.
Wow.
So I want to give everybody a round of applause. Frank Pearson, Sandy Cortez, and Jean Bartek have been very instrumental in getting all this put together. Not only collecting all the eggs and filling all the eggs, but we couldn't be happier that we're so close to our original goal of 5,000 eggs. So if anyone has been waiting back, sitting back, waiting, now's the time we can surpass our goal of 5,000 eggs. But thank you guys, and it should be an excellent, excellent Easter egg hunt for all the kids. Hopefully they show up.
And hopefully it doesn't snow.
Oh.
Kidding, it's not, it's gonna be beautiful.
Better than rain.
Ms. Faber from the front office has advised me that she has found out that Comcast Community Access Channel has a community calendar portion, and we are allowed as a village to post 4 events a month for free. 2 will run concurrent with each other for 2 weeks at a time. So if any trustees or anybody has any events for their committees or something they want on this community calendar, I think it's out of Homewood, and I think it's channel 19. And I'm excited because we've always wanted to kind of get part of this community access channel. So that's the first step, and just let Ms. Faber know of anything that you like on that community calendar. Of course, it only runs when there's nothing else on the channel, but it still runs quite a bit. So, and Chief Coffin, you'll bring up the Make-A-Wish in yours. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Killalay.
My partner on the CRS project, Kathy Devaney, and I are going to meet next Monday to continue work on the project. Trustee Gillis buttonholed me a couple weeks ago and told me that we should be just looking at some other applications from some other towns all over the country and basically replicate what they've already done. Try not to reinvent the wheel. Sounds like a good suggestion. I think maybe there's something to do this Sunday. Maybe we can.
I've already started trolling through other.
Pardon me?
I've already started trolling through other villages' websites to look to see what they've got.
Well, I think you can go on the CRS and look at their application.
Okay.
And I mean, that's the same thing. So I mean, maybe we can speed up the process a little bit by borrowing what they're doing and not trying to reinvent the wheel there. We do have to get our information from Jeff, or the budget from Jeff. The other thing we have to do is we have to pass an ordinance that will replicate the MWRD ordinances on detention, retention, flood controls, And and that's a large part of what the CRS application is. There's a number of different lines for that. So I don't know how we get started on that. Would I ask the village attorney and the engineer possibly to get together, and maybe Jeff can point out what we have to pass? Because we don't really know exactly what all that means, but it should be something simple, sort of like what we did for the building code for the.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we can do that soon, that would be a big hurdle, and we can get this party started. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Trustee Mansell.
Yes, Mayor, just a few short updates. 2 meetings ago, I believe, we talked about following up on collections of water bills. 2 weeks ago, we shut off 29 accounts. There were 20 last week, and there are another 30 scheduled for this week into next week. I understand that a number of these individuals have come to pay their bills. Some obviously are still shut off, and some of them are in the hands of banks, which they're following up with. In the cases of foreclosed homes, but we are moving ahead with those. And then lastly, we don't have a date scheduled yet, but the Finance Committee will be meeting second week of April. We'll get the board of that date next week. And that's all I have tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. I believe each of you, Jeff Koza couldn't attend this evening. He sent us all an email. I believe you saw his update. You guys can read. Thank you. Leisure. Did you guys have?
About the,
Now, what he's just been doing over the last
Oh, yeah.
couple of weeks? Yeah, he asked me to make sure everybody got it, so I said I would.
he asked Karen to check out the lot for him, about the ADA spots too.
Right. That was the other thing. I was in communication with Metro to confirm our number of parking spots, and we do have 12 ADA spots.
Yes.
And if we want to increase those, we have to submit the request to Metro. And you went over there.
Yeah.
And so you and I probably, if we can, maybe I'll go over there with you and we can, were you in that email? You were in
Yeah,
the
I know
email
what's
string.
going on there.
Okay.
Like Gary had brought up making the 2 employee parking spaces and then the 2 to the south of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Turn those 4 into 2.
And we may not have to reseal coat the whole lot. I'd like to see, I was over there yesterday inspecting some railings and looking at what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I could see the lines fairly well. Somebody told me today that it was just reseal coated 2 years ago. So we could possibly just seal coat that little area and restripe it, you know, because we got some other issues in the other lots that need to be attended to.
Metro has to clear it, but we have to pay for it. I love that.
Out of the funds.
Yeah. It's funny that I believe Vince and Chief Kaufman had brought up the spots parallel to 147 used to be handicap spots as well. Those are all gone.
Who decided they shouldn't be?
I don't know.
Maybe at the time they were empty and they were losing revenue.
And then when it was recorded 2 years ago. Just to be handicapped, of course, yeah.
Could have been.
They have signs there?
It could have been.
Just have stripes.
Yeah, they're just on the ground, so it could have been
Oh,
an
they could have
oversight.
just recorded it right over.
Yeah.
Maybe if we can get an original drawing, maybe we can just do it ourselves because it's already been approved.
12 meets the requirement.
Right.
So, but we can take more than the requirement.
Yeah, I don't think they have any problem. I'm assuming back in the day there was too many and they were empty all the time. Well,
Yeah. They were all full.
Oh, I mean, I'm talking about before,
Right.
you know.
Not a full every day. But
The 12.
I also recall, I think I spoke with you when I was over there, and that they went along 147th as well, and that's no longer. How that happened, I don't know. You know, like Trustee Kelly said, maybe they have something where it was just an oversight somehow when they did that.
Yeah,
But it's
that's what I'm saying. If we had an original approval for Metro for those to be handicapped, and maybe we could look up an original map, we could just record them ourselves to be handicapped and not have to deal with Metro. You know, it's already been approved.
I don't know if it would have been an oversight because they have to have signs and paint on the ground. So it's not like
The signs,
they have to have both.
there are signs there?
To be legal, there has to be, striping on the pavement as well as sign posted in the ground. Saying with the handicap placard on it.
100%.
So for it to be an oversight, somehow the signs would have had to come
Yeah,
out.
well, that would
But
be.
it may have been that they just changed it
because they weren't being used. You know?
And 12 meets the requirement, so they didn't have to have those ones.
Right.
But if we're gonna ask for additional, we have to resubmit the request to Metro, we just cannot
Right.
do it. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Chief Otwaiter?
Nothing.
Chief Kaufman?
Just a quick note on, I sent everybody an email just that we were contacted by Make-A-Wish Foundation for a 12-year-old boy in town, Albert Davis. So we're going to be organizing with Make-A-Wish. He wants to come in, basically get a tour of the police and fire department in the village. So we're coordinating things with that. If anyone wants to come out for that, they're more than welcome. I sent you all an email. That date's April 8th. It's a Wednesday night, it's board meeting night. It'll be at 4:30, and then on Saturday prior to April 4th, we'll be escorting him to Best Buy, where he'll be doing a shopping spree, and then from there he'll be taken out to Orland Park Mall. So we're going to do the best we can to make it a great day for him. That's all I have.
Thank you. Superintendent Sperry?
Yeah, a few things. Our concrete and asphalt contractors should be starting up in the next few weeks. So a lot of these things you've seen go unattended since the fall or, you know, early winter. Hopefully we're going to start patching things back together. There's a street light by Metro that's going to go back up. You know, remember we had a water main break over there. We had to take the light down so it didn't fall in the hole. But we had to get some concrete work done before they could do that. And we ran out of time at the end of the year. So if anybody's seen the cones over there right by the train station, that light should go up shortly. There's another street light that's been down for a while by the liquor store. The problem with that one is it's in the parking lot, in the trucks. You know, before
Keep getting it?
yeah, people are backing in and out with trucks, so I ordered some posts so we could put in there. So we gotta get an auger, and hopefully by the next week or two, we get that in and that light back up. Branch pickup starts Monday, April 6th. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
In the northeast.
A lot of people ask about the yard waste pickup.
April 1st. Yeah, that's contract.
April 1st.
It's on the website too, you know, people get have stickers at the village hall and back in the garage if they need.
Okay. Moving on to my business, at this time, I would like to make the appointment of Dan Dazell to the Fire Pension Board to fill a vacancy. And then I would be looking for the approval, we talked about this last week, I'd be looking for the approval of the squad car purchase from the Metro funds and the seizure money. The reason I'm asking that this be approved before waiting to go to the Finance Committee is because of the length it takes us to get a police car actually in possession. It takes over 3 months. And I did check the Metro funds, and currently we have $99,000 in that fund. And I checked with Chief Kaufman, and he says he's got the $12,500 coming out of the seizure money. So we do have the funds available to go ahead and make this and get the ball rolling. So I'd be looking for approval of the squad car.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. This was necessitated by the fact that we're now pulling engines on our older cars. And that's a $5,000 fix on a car that, you know, the rest of the cars fall apart as well. So you all see the bills. There's thousands and thousands of dollars a month in cost to repair these old cars that are nearing or over 100,000 miles. So,
Chief, how many cars do we have in the fleet that are under 6 years old?
Just the 3 new ones that we just recently purchased. And then were purchased from donations. The village purchased one and some change, and then one was donated, and then we also paid for the other one with the drug seizure account money. The biggest thing with this too is, and I'm sure you're all aware, is that $29,000 is allocated per year to pay for, you know, that we're allowed $20,000 for the vehicle, as well as $9,000 to transfer to general funds to pay for our services and collect the money and things of that nature. So it's coming directly from there, and that's what it's allocated to be used for.
is the same type of vehicle as?
Yes, it'd be the exact same.
And it's not an SUV vehicle, it's a
It'd be the same,
sedan.
it'll be an SUV. The SUV right now are cheaper than the cars, and that's why we've been purchasing them. It's more bang for the buck, I believe, and it's so far it's what we've had, especially with the winter, that they worked out much better. You know, there's more room in them and everything. The guys seem to be much happier with them. And, they go through the snow a little better as well, and there's not much of a difference in the gas use.
Okay. Trustee Chivoni?
Aye.
Trustee LaRue?
Aye.
Trustee Killingsworth?
Aye.
Trustee Kreis? Aye. Trustee Maskell?
Aye.
Motion passes. At 8:05, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.